present Yobe North. Mr. President, let me commend our President of the Federal Republic for presenting this very important budget estimate. And in my contribution, I would like to start by quoting one of his statements. And I quote, Mr. President yesterday said, "Security is the foundation of all progress." And I agree with him completely. Any other thing could easily fall in place when we are secured. Mr. President, defense and security is getting 4.91 trillion naira. To my mind, this is not even enough. But given the paucity of funds that we face, we can say there is a significant improvement over what we had for 2024. Mr. President, the Committee on Defense went on oversight to Kaduna last month, and we visited DICON, the Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria. Distinguished colleagues, DICON was established in 1964, 60 years today. But its contemporaries in Brazil, in Pakistan, today can produce fighter jets. DICON is still struggling to manufacture bullets. I believe that when Mr. President says that we are going to deploy technology and other technical and digital means of fighting insecurity, then DICON should be at the center of it. Mr. President, we should be able to make it possible for DICON to produce the kind of equipment, machinery and platforms that we need in this country. And we have the people who can do that. We have very well trained technicians and technologists. Mr. President, I believe that Nigeria has suffered enough in the hands of countries where we wanted to import our platforms or our aircrafts. We recall that in the last administration, Nigeria paid for about 12 fighter jets from a certain country. And we paid heavily. But alas, when those aircrafts were finally imported to Nigeria, we were not given every aspect of what we needed to use them to fight insecurity in Nigeria. So we are halfway. The only way to go is to have our own DICON functioning. Finally, Mr. President, because it says 2 minutes, we must commend our armed forces, but we must continue to demand for better and improved performance. And with this kind of funding, I think what we need to do is to keep our eyes on the ball. That is to say that we ask for accountability. We insist on transparency. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for the privilege.
I join those who have spoken to appreciate Mr. President for his budget presentation yesterday and the style in which it was delivered, smoothly, effortlessly and very eloquently, confirming that he knew exactly what he was presenting to us, and I think that is worth commendation in itself. Mr. President, like others have said, when I was in the trade unions, we used to question why government should devote so much resources to defense at the expense of education, healthcare, infrastructure. But over the past couple of years, given all that we have faced as a nation with regards to insecurity, I am now convinced more than ever before that none of those other important sectors can be safe unless we have security. And therefore, like all those who have spoken before me have said, I can't question why defense should have a lion's share of the budget. But the lessons we have learned since we assumed duties here is that budgetary provisions alone will not translate to the kind of outcome Mr. President spoke to, namely that our defense policies or management of our defense procurement should be guided in a way as to lay more emphasis on technology and have a much more smart, robust, and effective defense system. This will require that our defense committee, which happily is chaired by the immediate past Senate President, that our defense people need to be refocused. Even the issue of the defense, when I live in Kaduna, we find that Daikon, at a point Daikon was producing furnitures. And in Kaduna it was a joke of the town that people who an institution set up to manufacture arms, at the same time a similar institution was set up in Brazil. While Brazil are now manufacturing even jets, defense industries, Kaduna was producing furnitures. I'm not sure exactly what they are doing now. But just to say that my experience has taught me that throwing money at people without ensuring that they use the money strictly for the purpose for which it was appropriated can always lead to what I call goal displacement, replacing popular goal with what is convenient to those who are charged with the responsibility of managing resources that are appropriated for them. I also believe that the right emphasis was placed on health, on education, etc. I don't think any of us here will question those, because over the past 1 year, I can't count how many universities and how many colleges of education and how many technical skill acquisition we have set up. All of those will require resources to fund if they are signed into law. The key issue, Mr. President, that I think our Senate, particularly with reference to our Finance Committee, are chaired by Sani and Abiru and others, I want your attention. This time around, the Senate, through your committees, must ensure that the budget is based on 1,500 naira to the dollar. Everything must be done to ensure that the naira is protected. The purchasing power parity of the naira today, in my view, is grossly undervalued. The naira can buy in Nigeria much more than a dollar can buy in US. And to remove speculation from our economy, leading to hyperinflation, Nigeria needs to be certain that nothing will make the naira depreciate any further. That will require that the Senate committees, as appropriate, working with CBN, monetary authorities and the fiscal authorities, must guide jealously this figure. We should take them as a decree, just to emphasize my concern about it, that nothing should make the dollar fluctuate further, so that there will be price stability. The target of Mr. President, which he read to us and many of us clapped, was that from current level of inflation that is averaging around 30%, that the target is to cut it down to 15%. What that means is to protect and even enhance our real living standard. Now, to achieve 15% inflation, we require that the exchange rate remains stable as a precondition for general price stability in the economy. The inflation we have faced is not a result of more money chasing few goods or what the economists call demand pull. The inflation we have faced is the result of cost push. Central to that cost push is exchange rate. That is why we can't speak too much about the need to ensure that this figure in the budget is realized throughout the year. Lastly, I'm happy with the President's emphasis on returning the manufacturing sector, because all of us here are under pressure from young men and not so young for jobs. Those jobs will not be created by bankers or by banks. They will be created by the civil service. They will be created by conditional cash transfer. They can only be created by the manufacturing sector. When we come to the details, we will see through the Ministry of Industries what new initiatives are put in place to ensure that the manufacturing sector gradually return back so that our young people can get jobs and it will contribute to ensuring peace and security in our respective constituencies. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for allowing me to speak for 1 minute 56 seconds.
So, I thank you for the calculation. Distinguished Senator Ireti Kingibe.
The President, the Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria mentioned, security is key. Of course, we have been allocating funds for the security, but we need to actually achieve it because it is the fulcrum of the rest of the development. Farmers can't go to work, nobody can do anything. Even investment will not come as long as this insecurity is not taken care of. Even in the Federal Capital Territory, that's the center of Nigeria, the face of Nigeria, the insecurity is a lot. Even in the elite neighborhoods, people cannot go out at night. You cannot go for a walk without being kidnapped. So it is critical and vital to the survival of the economy of this country that insecurity should be taken care of, and everything else will fall into place. I so submit.
With a very cautious optimism. Cautious in the sense that as a parliament, we have listened to the president, we have received the president has done what he ought to do. But as a parliament, the talking point now should not be about what the president brought, it should be about what the parliament can do with what the president brought. Let me quickly, Mr. President, by your leave, read section 80, subsection 2, which says no money shall be withdrawn from the consolidated revenue fund of the Federation except to meet expenditure. Section 3 says no money shall be withdrawn from any public fund of the Federation other than the consolidated revenue fund of the Federation unless the issue of those monies have been authorized by Act of the National Assembly. And it goes on 4, so no money shall be withdrawn from the consolidated fund or any other public fund of the Federation except in the manner prescribed by the National Assembly. The President has done his bit. The ball now, Mr. President, is on our court. What will be done in making sure that our power has been clearly met in 2024? It is important for all of us to recognize that apart from the volume of statistics and data churn out year in, year out, but at the end of the day, how do our people feel? What is their economic position? Are we improving their economic condition? Have they improved from 2023 in 2024? What about hunger? What about the security? These are some of the things that as a parliament we must take home to bear. We've met our people day in, day out. The literature of budget is just not enough that is written to be able to send a clear message. The clear message is all of us meet our people, our constituents. Are their life being worse off last year than this year? It is important that the president pays a lot of attention to security. One of the cardinal things that he has mentioned that endeared my mind to the budget is the issue of security. I think without security, we can no longer do anything feasible. We can no longer make progress. This budget has come with a lot of hopes, and I hope the National Assembly, as it is, should be able to make sure that the performance of the budget of 2025 performs much better than what we have obtained. Right now, the capital budget has not performed up to 30%, and that is something that the National Assembly must create a way out, so that by next year, 25 this time, we're not going to be complaining to anybody, because if we complain, we are complaining to nobody. It is our job in making sure that this budget is implemented. It is our job in making sure that our people have been given a sense of life.
Your time is off, so there's a new...
30 seconds, Mr. President. 30 seconds. Let's have a better 2025 than 2024. That's just my summary.
Thank you very much. I am Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. Well, I adopt the beautiful and very erudite submissions made by the Deputy Senate President in respect of this bill. I want to further add that security of lives and property is the primacy of governance, and any government that fails and or neglects to protect the lives and property of its citizenry, that government is not supposed to last a minute longer than absolutely necessary, because that is the primacy of governance. Against this backdrop, I applaud the deployment of 4.91 trillion naira to defense and security in order to protect the lives and property of the people, and for the people to engage in meaningful economic activity, especially agriculture in the northwest, the northeast, and north central, that is agrarian in nature as a result of challenge of banditry, Boko Haram, and what have you. People don't go to the farm. So by deployment of this amount of money, it will go a long way in bringing sanity to all the nooks and crannies of the country that are security challenged. Then the other issue is with regard to infrastructure. The deployment of 4.6 trillion naira to infrastructure will go a long way in not only repleting the economy, but will generate a multiplier effect in the economy by way of creating employment and what have you. So that aspect is also applauded. But my main concern is budgets, no matter how beautifully couched, no matter how beautifully presented, if they are not implemented, they remain in the realm of mere estimates that will not translate into bringing concrete realities or concrete development to the doorsteps of the people. So because of that, I urge on the executive to follow up on the implementation of the budget. I can recall that Mr. President, in the course of his speech yesterday, alluded to the fact that the level of implementation of the budget stood at 48% to 50%. So by now, at least we should boost of at least 90 to 80% level of employment of the budget. So I think there is a need for the executive arm of government, particularly the Ministry of Finance, in conjunction with our Committee on Finance, to look at the issue of the policy of bottom-top approach that was introduced, that have constituted a cog in the wheel of implementation of the budget, to have a look at that system, because people are complaining about the bureaucratic red tape and bottlenecks that it has constituted in the process of implementation of the budget. So I think that aspect should be looked at, so that as beautiful as it is, as elaborate as it is, as aspirational as it is, it translates into bringing dividends of democracy to the doorsteps of the people and not remain as in the realm of mere estimates. Thank you.
I'll go straight to the point. I have only 2 minutes. Mr. President, let me join my colleagues in commending Mr. President for this wonderful budget presentation. At the same time, I have noted the key priorities areas towards rebuilding Nigeria, which is also commendable. Defense and security, which has been spoken about, is really necessary. Of course, infrastructure is key. Health, education, these are all important sectors that require attention. But Mr. President, I would have wished the Ministry of Foreign Affairs be included in the priority area. Because, Mr. President, as chairman of Foreign Affairs Committee, I can tell you we have over 100 missions abroad, and they are all in dire need of support. They are swamped in debt, dilapidated properties, and what have you. Mr. President, foreign affairs is the image of every nation. So I would like to appeal to this House to do whatever it can to see that we provide the required support for Ministry of Foreign Affairs so that they address their issues. They are able to appoint, because this is almost 1 year we have no ambassadors. These are all funds related. With the provision in the budget, I'm afraid it took take them anywhere, especially with the exchange rate. So, Mr. President, I would like you to use your office to please support the Ministry of Foreign Affairs so that they get the required necessary funding to address some of these very critical issues that is becoming very embarrassing to Nigeria as a country. So with this short remark, I would like to once again congratulate Mr. President for this wonderful budget, and I hope this budget will be implemented 100% in the coming year. Thank you very much.
1% inflation rate is still on the high side. Mr. President, the major problem of the Nigerian economy today is the ratio of the dollar to the naira. And so today we are exchanging the naira for the dollar at 1,700. This rate definitely cannot grow this economy. If you go to any market now, the market woman that sells tomato talks about exchange rate. If you want to go and buy pepper, they talk about exchange rate. If you want to go and buy chicken, they talk about exchange rate. So exchange rate now becomes a standard of transaction, even though we are transacting in naira. And so, Mr. President, I think more effort should be made. 1,500 naira that is expected to be the exchange rate anticipated and encapsulated in this budget certainly is unacceptable. And so, Mr. President, I think again that needs to be looked into. Mr. President, the oil benchmark has been set. We all have seen it in our medium-term framework. I hope sincerely that we try to meet the standard so that we don't run into further deficit. And so finally, Mr. President, foreign exchange inflows. You recall, Mr. President, that in some of our discussions in this chamber, we had said that because of our situation, generally, the insecurity, the exchange rate, all and all, that our investors are not forthcoming. And so I hope that if Mr. President keeps to his word and the budget works properly, we hope that energy provision will be seriously improved and our environment, especially security, improves, and we'll be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel in the present inflow of foreign investment that the government is anticipating. So all in all, Mr. President, I, as usual, would want to support the general principle of this budget, but also remember that in implementation, in the details, certain concerns that are raised here are addressed. I thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity.